Jumpsuits have a well-deserved reputation about being difficult to get a good fit and being a real struggle when it comes to going to the bathroom, leaving you feeling like it is just not worth it for the style. Then came the Avenir Jumpsuit by the Friday Pattern Company. Sewists across the sewing community were proclaiming that it was stylish, it was comfortable, it was easy to get a good fit. The whole bathroom thing was not a problem, and I decided I needed to try this for myself. I have seen jumpsuits hop in and out of fashion over the years, and I've mainly ignored them. Jumpsuits can be sloppy and oversized looking if the fit isn't right, or they can strain and pull and cut you in areas you don't want to be cut. And not to mention the whole problem in my personal ick feeling of when you're using a public washroom, a public bathroom, and the jumpsuit potentially touching the floor, something that I had trouble getting past until now. I will admit to being heavily influenced by my good friend Izzy from Dizzy Quilts and Sews. She has sewn 3. I've seen them in real life and they looked beautiful on her. So I went to 5/8 seams and I purchased the pattern so that I could make one for myself. I also watched the sew along and every single review I could find on the pattern so I could get some tips on what I would need to do to get this to work for me. I still had a little moment of pause on this because I wanted to have it fit well in the bodice and have a blouson effect. Friday Pattern Company drafts for a B sewing cup. I am a D sewing cup, and this is a raglan sleeve. I could not find a single tutorial on how to do a full bust adjustment by adding a dart on a raglan sleeve. I kind of thought that might be the way to go, even though Izzy told me she added some length to her bodice and it looked beautiful on her, and she said she would add a touch more the next time she were to make one. But I thought, let me noodle around with this and see if I can add a dart and this will work better on my full bust. I probably spent a full 2 days of sewing time. I was doing other things, trying to figure out how to add a dart. I looked at all the different tutorials. I could find nothing on adding to a raglan sleeve because you don't really have an arm side, because part of this is the sleeve that comes into the top. And I just kind of guessed where that would be on this top. And I had moderate success in that I got it to fit very nicely over here, but it really messed with the side seams. So I decided, wait. I'm going to call it on that. And I'm just going to go and look at my pattern. I leaned into trust and my trust of the Friday Pattern Company. I checked the body measurements and I checked the finished garment measurements, and I thought this should really work for me. And then I was going to do a test muslin, a fit muslin, something quick and dirty, because I was still concerned with, would I add enough length in the bodice to where I wouldn't have it pulling too tight across the torso. I wanted to add enough both to get over my bust and to create this blouson effect. And I didn't want to make it so short that it would cut into me, and I didn't want to make it so loose and floppy that it would look like an oversized mess. I wanted a stylish jumpsuit out of this, so I did do a fit muslin. Before I did my fit muslin, I made some adjustments out of the gate that I knew I would need to make. So I added length to the bodice, and Izzy told me how much she added. And basically what I did was, when I was chasing out my pattern piece, I took my line down to the depth of what a 3X would be, figuring that would give me more fullness over the bodice, but I didn't want it to be wider than it was. So the dimensions I decided on was, I sewed a 1X. I did grade out at the waist to a 2X. I'm not sure that I needed to do that. It's fine. I love the look. If I were to make another one, I would make it up exactly the same. So I guess that's a win. I then graded back into 1X because these legs are really wide and I wasn't sure that I wanted them to be even wider than they needed to be because my hip measurements fit perfectly within the size 1X. I also knew, because I've been on a pants fitting journey, that I would need to address the crotch length, and I did need to do that. So here's my back piece, and the first thing I did was I extended the crotch length here so that I would not get a wedgie with my jumpsuit basically, and I extended it a full inch. This is something that Izzy had told me she made the adjustment on hers, and I extended mine a little bit more than what she did because I thought I would need a little more, and I was right. So I did that. I sewed up my fit muslin, and I noticed that the back was dipping down at the center back. This is common for me. If you look at my Thea trouser video that just came out recently, I had to do it on my trousers, and so let me turn it this way. I think it'll be easier for you to see. I used the slash and spread method. I came 3 inches down from the top of my pattern piece. This is on the side where I have the curve, and I drew a line all the way across, and I did a slash and spread. I cut it, and I didn't cut it all the way through to this end, and I opened it up just 1/2 inch. That's the beauty of doing a fit muslin, was I knew I needed 1/2 inch, and so that's what I added here. I also knew that because I had recently taken very detailed body adjustments for fitting my pants, and I knew I would need probably 1/2 inch, and I did. I was feeling all the emotions when I was sewing this jumpsuit. Let me show you my silly fit muslin. So my fit muslin, I sewed out of this poly cotton Imperial Batiste. It's a very inexpensive fabric, super sheer, and it looks very comical. It looks very much like the photo or drawing depictions of Humpty Dumpty in one of my childhood nursery rhyme books. So I just can't get that out of my mind with kind of the eggshell. And in my nursery book, he was wearing these fleshy pink shorts. And this really was giving me Humpty Dumpty vibes. I did go in and put in all my casings. I made it shorts length. I didn't need to go all the way down to the floor. I didn't hem. I just did this rough and ready. When I put the elastic in at the neckline, you can see how wide this is. That's wide so that you can pull it down when you go to the bathroom. There are no other fastenings. It's just elastic here at the neck and at the waist. And that's what makes it both comfortable, and also it's not going to drop on the bathroom floor. And I use the recommended elastic length, and oh my goodness, it was so tight around my neck. I don't remember what the recommended length was, but the neck was really close and tight in, and it brought the sleeves digging into my underarms. I thought it was going to choke my underarms. I was with my friend Jaylee at the time and asked her, please cut me out of this to cut the elastic. It was choking my underarms that much, and it was really hard to see, was this really going to fit? So the next time I just ran the elastic through and pinned it instead of going with the elastic length, and I was like, right, this is going to work. I'm ready to cut into my fashion fabric. So I had that oh no moment that maybe I needed to redo the sleeves because they were choking my underarms, and my whole Humpty Dumpty vision. I cut into this gorgeous fabric from Minerva. This was gifted to me by Minerva as a Minerva brand ambassador. It is a viscose, no, it's a linen viscose. It's called Soaring Skies. I love the color on me. It's kind of a bricky red or a browny red, and it's a really good color for me. And I'm finding that I really need to wear the more saturated colors. I was wearing a t-shirt I made a couple of years ago that's in my color palette, but boy, does it leave me feeling washed out. And so I need to lean into these darker colors. I love the print. When I saw this as one of my options to choose for my Minerva brand ambassador make, I thought, oh, that has got to be a jumpsuit. It looks fun, and I love both sewing and wearing linen viscose. It works so well. So let's talk about the pattern a little more. The only notions you need are elastic, and I use something extra not included in the pattern. I like to use forming tapes when I am handling delicate fabric or fabric that frays a lot, and I want to make sure that it doesn't get out of shape. So instead of stay stitching, this is a little tape of interfacing. I think it's a 1/2 inch, 5 millimeters, and I love this stuff. I did it all around the neckline. I did it both on my sleeve piece and on the bodice piece along this cut line, and it worked wonderful. I highly recommend this. I buy mine from Minerva, and I use my own money for this. I usually buy this during a craft club discount. This is something that doesn't just sit in my stash. I buy, I use, and then I need to replace. I do have a discount code with Minerva. I'll put it down here. It's an affiliate code. I do earn a small commission, and I usually will use my code and stack it on a craft club weekend and get the most out of my discount. It's not super expensive, but I buy a lot of this and I use a lot of this, and I try to get it on discount. I have not found a US supplier of this. If you know of one, let me know in the comments section below. Highly recommend this. Not absolutely necessary, but I did use this in my make. This was a really quick sew, and I enjoyed making this. I did label all of my pieces. When I cut my pieces out, some of these look very similar. So I labeled the front, the back, the sleeves, and then on the sleeves, I noted which was going to connect to the front, what part of the sleeve was to connect to the back. And then for the casings, I made sure I noted the neckline and the front and the back waistband casings. And I didn't have an issue. I didn't mix anything up. It just went together really great. I did finish all my seams on the serger, and when I went to hem it, I talked in my makes video or my plans video that I thought I was going to make this a little above the ankle. When I saw what it looked like full length, I just left it full length. So when I hemmed it, I turned it up 1 inch and then another inch for the pants legs. And then the sleeves, I just hemmed them as the pattern recommended. I think this jumpsuit would look great with espadrilles, and depending on the fabric you used, you could dress it up or you could dress it down. A successful sew like this has me even more excited about my next sewing project. I went to bed last night thinking about all the things I want to sew. I do have some upcoming plans where I'm going to incorporate some teaching moments in it. I'd love to know what you're working on, and I will see you soon.